It was the kind of morning that smelled like trouble. The fluorescent lights above the school hallway flickered faintly as rows of students shuffled past, their laughter echoing off the blue lockers. No one paid much attention to the girl walking silently through the crowd. She didn't look like someone who wanted attention. In fact, she walked like a shadow present but overlooked. Her name was Amara. She had just transferred into the school. And if anyone had asked her, she would have said she preferred it that way, quiet, unnoticed, just trying to survive the noise. But that's not what the school had planned for her. Amara's silence made her different. She didn't speak much, not because she couldn't, but because she had learned over time that silence could protect you. It kept people from prying, from asking painful questions, from picking apart your story like it was theirs to own. She wore her long braids like armor, neatly kept and flowing down her back. Her movements were careful, deliberate. Every step calculated to avoid confrontation, but in a place like this where bullies wear charm, like a mask and the loudest voices get the biggest laughs, Amara's quiet confidence felt threatening. Enter Chase, captain of the football team, son of a wealthy local businessman and someone who had never heard the word no spoken to him with any weight. Chase was the type to command attention without asking for it. His smile could disarm a teacher, but behind it sat something sharper, something mean. And when Chase saw Amara, he didn't see a person, he saw a challenge. A new girl who wouldn't flinch, wouldn't laugh at his jokes, wouldn't even look at him when he walked by. That silence, it got under his skin. At first, the bullying started small. A shoulder bump in the hallway, whispered jokes as she passed. Books, accidentally knocked from her hands. Amara never responded, not once. She'd bend down, collect her things, and keep walking. But what no one realized, especially not Chase, was that Amara wasn't ignoring them because she was weak. She was measuring them. That morning, the halls were unusually tense. Amara had entered early, as usual, slipping past the usual crowd. But Chase was waiting. He wasn't alone this time. Behind him stood two of his friends laughing already before anything had even happened. And in front of him was Amara, opening her locker quietly, her back turned. Chase grinned, pulling a pair of shiny silver scissors from his jacket pocket, dramatic like he was in a movie. His friends chuckled behind him, phones in hand, already recording. "Let's see if silence still works when your hair's gone," Chase whispered, loud enough for the hallway to hear. He grabbed a chunk of Amara's braids, lifted the scissors, and then something changed. Amara didn't scream, she didn't cry. She turned her head slowly, her eyes locking onto his with a calm that didn't belong in that moment. It wasn't fear, it was ... warning. "Go ahead," she said quietly, the first words anyone had heard from her all week. Her voice was soft, steady. "But you won't like what comes next?" The hallway fell quiet. Chase, of course, didn't listen. That's the thing about people like him, they mistake silence for weakness and kindness for fear. He laughed, raised the scissors higher, but before they could close, before his fingers could apply pressure, Amara moved. No one could say for sure what happened first. Some say she twisted out of his grip in a blink. Others say she didn't even move until after the scissors dropped to the floor. But all anyone could confirm, thanks to the videos that would later go viral, was that Chase didn't stay on his feet for long. One kick, just one, and Chase was airborne, backward, crashing into the lockers behind him with a loud metallic slam that echoed through the hallway like thunder. His friends froze, mouths wide open. The phone filming hit the floor with a clatter, but Amara didn't wait around. She picked up her backpack, calmly brushed the sleeve of her cardigan, and walked down the hallway as if nothing had happened. Eyes followed her. Silence chased her. For the first time, it wasn't her silence that stood out, it was theirs. What no one had known until that moment was that Amara had been training in martial arts since she was 6. Not for sport, not for trophies, but because she had grown up in a world that often tried to break people like her. She learned how to protect her mind first, her voice second, and her body last. But when that final line was crossed, she knew how to respond. The school didn't know what to do with the footage. Some kids cheered, others stayed quiet. Teachers scrambled to handle the situation before it got out of control. But the story spread fast. Not just across the school, but across the internet. Some praised Amara as a quiet warrior. Others questioned how violence could be justified even in self-defense. But what no one could deny was this: Amara had stood her ground, and she had done it with grace, power, and without ever asking for attention. But that's only half the story, because what happened next changed everything. Later that evening, across the city on a crowded bus, another story was quietly unfolding. A young black teen, barely 17, stood from his seat and offered it to a visibly pregnant white woman who had just stepped on. She looked surprised, tired, grateful. She sat down carefully, hand on her stomach, and looked up at the boy. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded politely, slipping his headphones back on, but as the bus rolled through traffic in her stop neared, she reached into her purse and handed him a folded note. She didn't say much, just smiled and said, "You'll want to read this later." What was written inside that note would link his life to Amara's in a way neither of them could have predicted. A way that had nothing to do with school bullies or viral fame, but everything to do with truth, justice, and a chance to change. Not just their lives, but the world around them. And just as one hallway incident had the internet buzzing, the contents of that simple handwritten note would soon ignite something even bigger. But for now, the teen just stared at the paper, unaware of the weight it carried. The teen sat by the window of the bus, the folded note tucked carefully into his jacket pocket. The city lights outside flickered like restless thoughts. He didn't open the note right away. Something about the woman's eyes stayed with him. They were tired, yes, but not just from carrying a child. There had been a sadness behind her smile, like someone who had seen too much but still chose kindness. The boy didn't even know her name, but somehow her presence lingered even after she got off the bus, swallowed up by the evening crowd. His name was Elijah, 17, a senior at a nearby high school, not the same one where Amara's story had just exploded, but close enough that the two worlds were bound to collide. Elijah had grown up in the city's quieter neighborhoods, raised by his grandmother after his mother passed and his father disappeared. He knew the weight of silence in a different way than Amara. For him, it came from late nights without answers and early mornings filled with responsibilities he never asked for. Still, he carried himself with quiet strength. The kind of kid teachers liked because he didn't cause trouble, and the kind classmates often ignored because he didn't beg for attention. But beneath that calm, Elijah paid attention to everything. He noticed the way people tightened their grip on their bags when he walked past in his hoodie. He noticed how his ideas in class were ignored until someone else repeated them louder. He noticed how true kindness was rare. So when he saw the pregnant woman step onto the bus, holding her belly and shifting nervously, he didn't hesitate to stand up. It wasn't about being noticed. It was about being human. Later that night, as he sat on the edge of his bed in the room he shared with his little cousin, Elijah finally unfolded the note. The handwriting was neat but quick. A few lines, not more. But as his eyes moved across the words, his breath caught in his chest. "I don't know why you helped me, but thank you. I used to work in a place where people judged everything by race, silence, and strength. You reminded me not everyone is like them. If you ever feel like the world's pressing down on you, call this number. Don't ask questions, just call." At the bottom was a phone number, no name, no explanation. Elijah stared at it, heart racing for reasons he couldn't explain. Who was she? What kind of place did she work in? And what did she mean by not everyone is like them? He flipped the note over. Nothing, just the faint smudge of her fingerprint. Something about it all felt bigger than it seemed. He didn't know why, but he knew this was the start of something. Elsewhere in the city, Amara sat alone on her bed, watching her phone vibrate nonstop. Her face was calm, but her mind was spinning. Dozens of missed calls, texts, and messages flooded her screen. Some from strangers calling her a hero, others warning her to watch her back. The video of her kick had been reposted hundreds of times. Some accounts turned it into a meme. Others called her a threat. Her foster mom had already received a call from the school board. They weren't sure if they would suspend Amara, self-defense or not. They said, violence on school property is serious. Amara stared at the wall, thinking about how quickly the world decided who you were. One moment she was invisible, the next trending, but not for her art, not for her grades. Just one kick, she got up and pulled an old box from under her bed. Inside were folded certificates, worn belts from her martial arts training, and a small photo of her younger self standing proudly beside a woman who once taught her how to fight not just with fists, but with purpose. That woman had disappeared 2 years ago. Amara never found out why. But now, in the middle of this storm, she missed her more than ever. Across town, Elijah found himself dialing the number on the note before he could think twice. It rang once, then twice. He almost hung up, then someone answered, a calm voice. Female. Older. You must be the young man from the bus. Elijah blinked. Yeah, who are you? A pause. Then, someone who's been watching what's happening in your city. We've seen the video. We've seen the silence. We've seen the strength. And we need your help. Elijah stood slowly, gripping the phone tighter. I think you have the wrong person. No, the voice replied. You stood up. Even when no one asked you to, you made a choice, and so did she. She? Elijah asked. The girl who made them fly? Amara. His heart pounded harder. What does this have to do with me? The voice paused again, then softly said, You both have something the world's trying to erase. Dignity, restraint, power, and they don't like it when you combine all three. Elijah looked out the window. What do you want me to do? We want you to be ready. The voice said, You're going to meet her soon, but for now, watch, listen, and stay quiet until it's time to speak. The line went dead. Elijah stood in silence, the phone still pressed to his ear. He didn't know what just happened, but deep down something told him this wasn't random. It was all connected. Somehow, and somewhere not far from him, Amara picked up her phone and noticed a new message. No number. No name, just 3 words. You're not alone. She stared at the screen, her fingers trembling slightly. For the first time in a long while, her silence didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a choice again, but this wasn't over, not even close. Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay awake with her eyes fixed on the ceiling, thoughts racing in all directions. Every replay of the hallway moment felt louder in her head, like echoes refusing to fade. She hadn't meant to hurt him like that. She just reacted. Instinct had taken over. But now, with every repost, every angry comment, every fake story spreading online, it felt like her silence had been ripped from her again. Only now the world had filled the gap with its own voice. She glanced at her phone. That message, you're not alone, was still there. No reply, no number. But somehow it felt real, like someone had seen through everything. Through the silence, the pain, the control she had fought so hard to keep. Someone understood. Meanwhile, at another high school just a few miles away, Elijah sat in his English class, his mind far from the textbook in front of him. He couldn't shake the call from last night. The woman's voice had been calm, almost too calm for what she was talking about. And her knowing about Amara, that detail stayed with him. He hadn't said her name, hadn't asked about her, but somehow the woman had connected them. He didn't even know this girl, not yet. But now he couldn't stop thinking about her. During lunch, Elijah sat under a tree on the far end of the campus yard. He took the note out again, turning it over slowly. A few of his classmates nearby laughed loudly, throwing fries at each other. The noise felt distant. His world had shifted. He could feel it. A shadow passed in front of him. He looked up. A girl stood there, dark hair tied back, sharp eyes, hoodie zipped up to her chin. She didn't smile. You Elijah? She asked. He blinked. Yeah. She sat beside him without asking, pulling something from her backpack. A small black envelope. She handed it to him. You don't know me. And I don't know you, but they said you'd understand. Who's they? He asked, taking the envelope carefully. She shrugged. People who see things, people who listen before they speak. He opened the envelope. Inside was a photo, blurry, taken from a distance, but clear enough. It showed Amara walking out of school. A black SUV parked at the corner, 2 suited men stepping out, watching her. The photo was marked with a timestamp. It was taken just this morning. Elijah's pulse quickened. Who are they? Not cops? Not school security, the girl said. They've been showing up ever since the video went viral. Quiet, no badges, but always watching. Elijah stared at the image. Why her? They're not after her, the girl said, standing up again. They're afraid of what she might become. He looked at her. And what's that? She didn't answer. Just turned and walked away. Later that day, Amara noticed the same SUV parked outside her school. It wasn't obvious. Tinted windows, quiet engine, nothing flashy. But it had been there yesterday too, and the day before. She wasn't paranoid, she was trained to observe. The same man sitting in the driver's seat, pretending to scroll through his phone. Always in the same spot. Inside the school, the atmosphere had shifted. Some students gave her space, respectful, cautious. Others whispered when she walked by. Teachers didn't know how to treat her anymore. Was she a danger? A hero? A problem? Chase hadn't returned. Rumors said his family was threatening legal action, but nothing was official yet. His father had powerful friends. Some said he was trying to get Amara expelled quietly. Others claimed he was more interested in burying the whole story. Whatever it was, the silence was growing louder. In the counselor's office, Amara sat across from Ms. Rivera, a woman who had always been kind but now looked nervous. Unsure. I just want to check on how you're feeling, she said softly. Amara shrugged. I'm fine. Ms. Rivera hesitated. There's a lot of attention on you right now, some of it good, some not so much. Amara looked out the window, her voice flat. That's not new. I know, Ms. Rivera said, choosing her words carefully. But things are different now. There's talk about you online. People digging into your background, asking questions about your past, your training, where you came from. Amara's jaw tightened. Let them ask. They're saying you're dangerous, Ms. Rivera added. Some are calling you a threat. And now people are watching, people outside the school. Amara turned to her, eyes steady. You mean men in black cars? The counselor froze, caught. She hadn't expected that. I see them too, Amara said. I've seen people like them before. Do you feel unsafe? Ms. Rivera asked quietly. Amara stood. Not yet, but I know how to be ready. That night, Elijah met the girl again, the one who had given him the photo. Her name was Nia. She didn't say much about herself, just that she was part of something bigger. She handed him a tablet and pulled up footage. Not of Amara, but of others' kids across the country. Stories that had been buried. Young people who had stood up against abuse, corruption, injustice, and disappeared from the headlines. Some of them got silenced, she said. Others fought back quietly, built networks, shared messages, trained each other. Why? Are you showing me this? Elijah asked. Because we think you and Amara are part of the next wave, Nia said. The quiet ones. The ones who don't shout for attention but make the biggest moves. I'm not some superhero, Elijah said. I gave a lady a seat on the bus. And she gave you the key, Nia replied. Elijah leaned back, absorbing it all. So what now? Now you find her, she said. Before they do. Back in her bedroom, Amara opened her laptop and clicked on a file she hadn't touched in months. A digital journal her old trainer had once told her to keep. Notes, strategies, patterns. She stared at the screen and began typing again. Silence used to be safety. But now it's their fear. They don't know what we're planning. That's the power. We don't have to shout to win. We just have to move. Somewhere in the city, another car pulled up. Another camera lens zoomed in. Another shadow took notes, and the clock kept ticking. Rain hit the pavement in soft, steady rhythms as Amara stood under the bus stop shelter, her hoodie pulled over her braids, arms folded tightly across her chest. The air was cold, sharp, the kind of cold that made everything feel more real. She didn't flinch when the black SUV pulled up across the street. She didn't run either. She had seen it every day now. The same model, the same tinted windows, same engine idling too quietly. She didn't need to know the license plate to feel the tension growing with each passing second inside the SUV. Someone was watching her, not just observing studying. A man with no uniform, no badge. Just sharp eyes and a voice on the earpiece. She's not running, still calm, looks like she's waiting. Back at school, things had only gotten worse. Chase was back, bruised but bolder. He walked the halls like nothing had happened, even as whispers followed him. His father had made a deal behind the scenes. Amara's kick was now officially classified as an unfortunate incident, and she was under review. The message was clear. Boys like Chase got second chances. Girls like Amara got warnings, but Amara didn't argue. She didn't protest. She just watched. What no one knew was that Amara had started mapping everything, people, movements, patterns, who watched her. When they appeared, how long they stayed, she logged it all. Even the faces that only showed up once, and now. One of those faces had shown up again. Elijah walked toward her slowly through the rain, hood over his head, sneakers soaked. Their eyes met. It was their first time seeing each other face to face. "You waited," she said. "I was told you might." "Need someone," he replied. She raised an eyebrow. "Told by who?" He smiled faintly. "A lady on a bus?" And a girl with sharp eyes. That made Amara look at him again, really look. There was a calm about him, like he'd already decided that if things got worse, he'd stand in the fire. "Anyway, come on," she said, nodding toward a side street. "We shouldn't talk here." They walked in silence for a few blocks until they reached a small, abandoned community center, windows boarded up, door cracked just enough to slip. Amara had been using it for weeks now. It was the only place no one bothered to look. Inside, the walls were bare, except for one. On it, she had pinned printouts, hand-drawn maps, photos, dates. Elijah stepped back, eyes scanning the layout. "You've been preparing," Amara nodded. "Since before the video. People think it started with Chase, but they don't see the whole picture." He pointed to one photo, 3 men in suits talking near a school security guard. "These the same guys watching you now?" "Yeah," she said. "They don't work for the school?" "They work for something else. I don't know what yet. But they've been around longer than anyone realizes." Elijah stepped closer. "You think they're connected to the video?" "I think they're watching kids who don't fold," Amara replied. "Kids who don't yell back, but don't back down either. They don't like the quiet ones. They don't know what we're thinking. And that makes them nervous." He paused. "So what happens next?" Before she could answer, a sudden thud hit the side of the building. Then another dot. She froze. Elijah moved quietly toward the door. Listening. Outside, footsteps, several, fast, coordinated. "They found this place," she whispered. "How?" Elijah asked. Amara's voice was calm. "We're not the only ones watching." She grabbed a bag from under the table, lightweight but packed with gear. Elijah followed her lead, helping gather everything that could be used later. Photos, maps, notes. She wiped the wall clean in under a minute. The footsteps outside stopped. Knock. Then silence. Elijah's heart pounded, but he didn't move. Amara stepped toward the door. Not to open it, but to speak. "I know who you are," she said through the door. "I know what you're doing." No answer. Then came a voice. "Amara, we're not here to hurt you. We just want to talk." She narrowed her eyes. "People who talk don't sneak around and follow kids." The voice shifted slightly, still calm, but firmer. "You've stirred up attention. There are people watching now who weren't before. If you keep moving like this, you won't be safe. Neither will your friend." Elijah stepped forward. "Then why are you threatening us?" Silence again. Then the man outside said one thing before walking away. "Because if you won't come to us, someone else will make sure you do." Their footsteps retreated into the rain, tires splashing through puddles as the SUV disappeared. Amara shut the door. Slowly, locking it. Elijah turned to her. "What do they want?" "They want control," she said. "They want fear, but mostly they want us quiet." He nodded. "Then we don't give it to them." She looked at him for a moment, then finally let out a breath she didn't know. She was holding. "Tomorrow," she said, "we go back to school. But this time we don't play defense." Elijah's eyes lit with something new, not fear, not confusion, but purpose. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "we do it together." Storm outside grew louder. Thunder cracked across the sky, somewhere far off. A different student was being pulled from class. Another camera lens was loading, another message being drafted. The network Amara feared they weren't just watching anymore, they were preparing to move, and Amara and Elijah were standing right in the center of it. The next morning, the sky was still gray, the clouds heavy with leftover rain. Elijah stood near the school entrance, his hoodie pulled low and eyes scanning the crowd. Amara hadn't arrived yet. He was early, mostly to watch who else showed up. Every car, every stranger, every unfamiliar face felt like a warning now. But he kept calm, just like she had taught him in their short time together. "Move like you're meant to be here," she said. "Don't let them know you see them." Inside the school, students buzzed about nothing: weekend parties, homework, drama. But underneath it all, there was tension. Everyone had seen the video. Even the teachers walked more cautiously now, like they were unsure where they stood. Some silently rooted for Amara, others kept their distance, unsure what was true anymore. When Amara finally arrived, she walked in without flinching. She was dressed the same as always: simple jeans, hoodie, calm expression. But this time Elijah walked beside her. And that simple act changed everything. People noticed. The hallway grew quieter. Two students who had never spoken before were now side by side, walking like they had nothing to hide. But Amara noticed something new. 3 students she'd never seen before stood near the vending machines. They weren't watching her directly, but their body language gave them away. Too stiff, too alert. One of them tapped something into his phone when she passed. "They're not students," she whispered to Elijah. He glanced briefly and nodded. "I saw them outside too. Different cars, same people." They turned the corner and entered the library, pretending to be casual. The librarian nodded at them, distracted by a stack of books. They found a quiet corner, away from cameras. Amara opened her notebook and slipped Elijah a folded paper. "This is the full map. Movement patterns? People following us?" "You were right. Some of them are switching cars now." Trying not to be predictable, he looked down at the paper, eyes moving quickly. "You've tracked this much?" "I had to," she said. "They're not just watching anymore. They're getting ready for something. I don't know what. But it's not just about me anymore." Elijah looked up. "So what do we do?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed an alert from an anonymous source she'd been exchanging encrypted messages with. A single image popped up on the screen, blurry, taken through a security camera, but clear enough to stop her heart. It was a picture of her foster mom, being escorted out of her workplace by 2 plainclothes agents. Amara stared at the screen, her hands trembling just slightly. "What is it?" Elijah asked. "They've taken her," she said quietly. "She doesn't even know what's going on." Elijah leaned in. "Why now?" Amara's voice was low and focused. "To send a message. They couldn't scare me. So now they'll scare who I care about." The plot had shifted. This wasn't about school anymore, not about Chase or bullies or videos. This was bigger. They were targeting the people around her, starting with the quiet, harmless ones. Elijah clenched his fists. "We have to go get her," but Amara shook her head. "No, that's what they want. They want us to panic, show up somewhere unprepared. We have to stay sharp. And now ... we need help." That night, Elijah got another call. This time it wasn't from the woman on the bus. It was from Chase. His voice was different, lower, almost nervous. "Look, I don't want trouble, but something's going on. My dad ... he had a meeting last night. Guys in suits. They're not from the school board." Elijah's heart skipped. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think I messed up," Chase said. "They're not just after her. They're watching my family now, too. My dad told me to stay quiet, stay away. But I saw one of those guys outside my house, taking pictures." Elijah took a breath. "If this is a joke." "It's not," Chase said. "I think something big is coming. I don't know what, but if you and Amara are planning something, I want in." Elijah didn't trust him. Not yet, but something about his voice felt real, desperate, like someone who finally understood he wasn't the one holding the power anymore. Back at her safe spot, Amara stood over her wall of evidence. New pins, new faces. She marked the photo of her foster mom, drew a line connecting it to the black SUV, then another connecting it to an address she found tucked into one of her old files. An address her martial arts teacher had once scribbled down and told her to memorize in case anything ever felt wrong. She had never gone there, but now she might have to, across town. Elijah met Naya again. She was already waiting, standing by a train platform, wind pushing her coat back. "You weren't supposed to contact me," she said. "They took her foster mom," Elijah replied. "And now Chase says they're watching his house too." Nia's eyes narrowed. "They're escalating, fast." "Why?" Elijah asked. "What are they afraid of?" She looked around and leaned closer. "Because you and Amara are not alone. There are others like you. Other teens who've stood up, fought back, refused to be broken. But when too many kids like that exist, people in power get nervous. They fear the ones who can't be predicted," Elijah nodded slowly. "So what happens next?" "You decide if you're going to fight in the open," Nia said. "But know this, once you step out, there's no going back. They'll see you, and they won't stop." Elijah didn't flinch. "We've already been seen." Back in her room, Amara opened the old envelope again. Inside, beneath the old training schedules and photos, was a card. It had no logo, no contact. Just a single line: "When they cut your silence, build a storm." She closed her eyes. She wasn't just reacting anymore. She was preparing, and this time, they wouldn't see her coming. Moral of the story: never underestimate the quiet ones. Behind their silence may lie untold strength. Discipline and power, kindness, like the seat the black teen offered, can create ripples that return in unimaginable ways. Respect and dignity aren't just rights, they are the foundation of true strength. And those who mock, bully, or try to break others often end up being the ones most shaken by the strength they never saw coming.